Joel Osteen, welcome to the Herd Mentality. Thanks for your time. Now, you'd like to discuss your new book. It's called And Sales Are Through the Roof. Just give the listeners a brief overview. Yes? Ah, brilliant. Now, if you'll excuse the pun, I'm trying to get to the bottom of Ray Comfort's 8 horsepower solid gold butt plug. I couldn't agree more. When do you expect it to go to market? Joel Osteen, thanks for your time.
Welcome to the Herd Mentality, an eclectic weekly mix of atheistic and humanistic conversations with complete strangers. I've never met them and they've never met me, but we're throwing caution to the wind, taking a risk with a dodgy internet connection, and God willing, get an interesting conversation for you to listen to. I'm your host, Questionable Adam, at Adam Reeks on Twitter, and it's time to meet our guests. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Herd Mentality, and with me today I have a completely impromptu cast of unheathens. I've got Josh Howarth, Bob and Ryan, and I'll give out some Twitter handles quickly because I've just met you guys. We've got at Bob Tompkins, Tompkins 93, at JM Howarth, and at Ryan Pullen, RyanPullin. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
We'll just do a quick whip around. Josh, what do you do? Where are you from?
I am a pastor in Oregon in the United States. So we started a church about a little over a year ago here in a city called Corvallis, where Oregon State University is. Yeah.
Outstanding. You were very polite. You asked me a couple of really open questions on the Twitter sphere and very gracefully accepted an invite onto the show. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your response. So it's great.
Cheers. And Bob, tell me about yourself. Where are you from?
I'm a junior ministry student at Anderson University in South Carolina. I'm the vice president of my SDA at my school. Been able to see a lot of good things happen there, so just a little bit about me.
Okay, cool. And Ryan, what about you?
I'm a second-year college student out of West Virginia, and I play in a band out of Charleston, West Virginia called Embracer.
Cool. A band called Embracer.
Yeah.
What sort of music?
We classify it as like alternative rock or kind of ambient rock. Our vocalist does a lot of Christian themed lyrics. So
cool. Sounds like my kind of music. I like alternative rock.
Mm-hmm.
You have to send me through a link after the show.
Yeah.
Or at least...
yes, I will.
All right, guys. Look, we all got together sort of off the cuff because you jumped in and admirably defended a gentleman by the name of Pastor Mark. And he wrote a tweet this morning along the lines of, why do you give your sin to Jesus but not your money? It was along those lines. So I don't have it in front of me. I apologise if I've misrepresented it. You were really polite. And you asked some really good questions. So what I thought I'd do is get you on, and you're welcome to interview me. So I'm going to hand it over to you guys.
This is great.
Now, who's up first?
Well, I was more curious, just as I've always wanted to seek to understand this a little bit better, but for someone who doesn't believe that God exists, that religions are fiction, in our case, the religion of Christianity, is there something within you that doesn't want to believe in a God? Or if there were a God, would you want to know this God? Just coming from a standpoint of atheism, it just seems, and I said this in one of the questions I asked you, just interesting to try and defend and fight against something that I wouldn't even think is real. Just always intrigues me a little bit, because I think for the most part, things that I would believe are fiction, that aren't real, I don't really care about. So I guess like my question really is, I guess that twofold: why care so much? But then more than that, do you even want to believe that there is a God?
All right, well, I'll answer that one first. Do I want to believe there's a God? Yes, I think there's intrinsic within human nature. People want to believe that we're not alone. You know, that people want to believe that we have a purpose. Now, when I was quite young, I would have been 7 or 8. We had scripture lessons at our school here in Australia, in the third world. And I wanted to believe. I went home, for about 6 months. I prayed every night. I had the Bible. I read the Bible when I was that old. And I wanted to believe in a higher power. Now, one of the things I mentioned to you in the tweets is something called confirmation bias. So in order to experience God, you have to accept it first. So That's one of the things I had trouble with, because even though I'd pray and ask for something, I never actually received it. So over time, I think I began to wake up to this and understand what's going on. The second part of the question...
I guess, what were you wanting to believe that you felt like wasn't satisfied? Because you finished your last sentence with something similar to that. You said there was something you wanted, but you weren't able to get it.
I was wanting to believe that life isn't finite.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the biggest thing, that life isn't finite. I don't believe in a heaven. I don't think I'm going anywhere other than into the ground to become worm food. So my mission, the reason I get up every morning, is to make a difference in the world and to improve the lives of future generations. And by attacking, if you will, or just the thought processes, not the people, but the beliefs. Yeah. That is a way I feel I can make an improvement for it. And I'll give you an example. The red states in the US, so the most southern states, have the highest rates of teenage pregnancy in the US, and they're the most religious. These are the states where we're taught contraception is bad, it's not to be used, no sex before marriage. And yet the people themselves are wired at that age to go out and do what young people do. So my view on that is that we should use education to improve their lives, and rather than cases of unwanted pregnancies occurring, allow people to live fuller, more educated lives and then have their families when they're ready. And that improves a society overall.
Right. What was it then that caused you to believe that life is finite? Because you said it's like when you were younger, you were reading scriptures and things like that, but you didn't receive this belief to where you then became an atheist. So what was it that caused you to say, well, life is finite?
Well, people want to believe in things that don't align with what we experience in reality. So, for example, we want to believe that Batman is real and that he drives around at night in a black car fighting crime. But the only evidence we have for that is something that's on film. And it's clearly fictional. So what caused me to not believe? Well, the experience I have is that I don't have any recollection of what happened before I was born. I came into existence as a result of mutations and a sperm and an egg. There was 1 in a 6 billion chance that I turned out to be me. And this occurs every day. Now, I have no good reason to believe that I'm going to heaven afterwards, because it's something we can't measure. It's something we can't judge, and it has to be taken on faith alone. And the issue with taking things on faith alone is that it leads people to do irrational things. Now, an extreme example of that may be, I hate this example, but let's talk about the people who attacked the Twin Towers. Their faith, which, they have no real good evidence to believe that they're going to get virgins in the afterlife, led them to go and do atrocious acts. Now, that's an extreme example, but it also, on a lesser degree, can cause your typical average person in the street to hate gay people. And gay people, they're a reality. They're here. Why not just accept them? That would be a measure of a good society. And we can look to European countries like Sweden and Germany and places where gay marriage is legalized as to the happiness of a country. So faith is, I don't view faith as a virtue. That's probably the best way to sum it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to chime in on this.
Okay, Bob, lay it on me.
Yeah, so I live down in the deep south, like you said, the red states in South Carolina. And one thing, you kind of talked about, we kind of listen to what people teach us and we do that, and we end up having like a higher pregnancy rate here than elsewhere. Also, in European countries, you say that there's the gay population, and sometimes the faith can cause us to hate those people. And I think a lot of that reason is because what's being taught is morality. It's not really the gospel of Christ. It's not really the good news about Jesus. It's more, do these good things and you'll get heaven. It's a be a good person and you'll get heaven. And not having sex till you're married, not using certain drugs, kind of viewing homosexuality as a bad thing, are moral things, as we would say. It's moral to be like this. But I don't think that's what truly the Bible teaches. Yeah, we are to be ethical and be moral as Christians, but our morality and our ethics don't actually get us anywhere.
One thing I was trying to express to you, because I was trying to understand one of your questions, your comments in response to mine, was like, if you would look at Christianity as a whole and view Christianity as evil, like it's producing evil in the world, is that something that you were trying to communicate? Is that something that you're holding to?
I don't view Christianity as better or worse than any other belief system.
Right.
Because all these belief systems teach, and this is one of the reasons I'm an atheist, because you've got Islam, you've got Buddhism, you've got Christianity, you've got all, and there's dozens of types of Christianity, and they all purport to the one true God, and yet that couldn't possibly be the case. So and this is a cause for unrest in the world. So, there's people in America who believe in one particular type of God, and people on the other side of the world who believe in a different type of God, and it causes unrest. It closes off avenues for discussion.
Right. In relation to your comments, because you said something about for a good man to be silent produces evil in the world. It was something to that effect, I think, is something you stated.
So for evil to prevail, all it takes is for good men to do nothing. That's not my quote.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I guess I was just trying to say, in using that quote, were you trying to communicate in the sense that going after various people or being someone who said, I don't believe in God, but I'm going to try to prove and seek to prove that there is no God, that's fueling you to look at Christianity and say, well, if I don't speak up, then I'm going to let this evil sort of prevail in the world. That's my question, is more like, are you essentially saying that you look at Christianity and the message of Christianity and people like that and say, well, this is producing evil in the world?
I don't seek to disprove a God, because that's an impossible task. It's like me saying to you, there's a unicorn orbiting Jupiter. Please disprove it. I'm placing the work back on you when it's me making the claim. So my position is more, regardless of religion, your claim is that a God exists. It's now in your court to provide reasonable evidence that is backed up, and not using the Bible, because the Bible tells us that the Bible is true, so therefore the Bible is true, and it's a circular argument. Using facts and reasoning, do we have evidence to suggest that Allah flew up to the sky on a horse, or Muhammad flew up to the sky on a horse? Or do we have evidence to suggest that people lived to 900 years and built arks? Do we have evidence to believe that a snake coerced Adam and Eve in the garden? So these are claims that the Bible is making that people believe in. And my query is more with getting people to think about, hang on, it doesn't actually make sense based on my understanding of the world around me. So what's going on in my mind? There's some sort of cognitive dissonance taking place here. That's my fight. That's where I'm going. Is religion evil? Religion can make people do evil things. That's my position on it. Religion in itself, no.
Actually, I find something very interesting here.
Bob?
Yeah, I find it very interesting, though, that with this concept of not having religion, that you have a very real concept of good and evil. And I just wonder, where does that concept of good and evil come from? What does it derive from if you have no belief in a God or a religion?
Okay, well, I don't take my morality from the Bible, but does this make me a good or a bad person? Well, you judge a person on their actions. So a common argument that atheists hear is that, Stalin, Mao, and to a lesser degree Hitler were atheists. That's not true in the case of Hitler. He was a Catholic, but people seem to believe that he is, or he was an atheist. Those people didn't do what they did because of atheism. They had different agendas at play, and I'm happy to provide links to that. There was a recent episode of C-Web's Sunday School, so you can follow him on Twitter at C-Web with 2 B's 619, and there's a link to his podcast there where he discusses those three characters in particular. Now, if the Bible teaches us morality, and we have to stick to the Bible as a true source of morality, then in that instance we would be keeping slaves.
I saw you tweeted about that earlier when we were discussing. And I feel that the Bible, it never says to have slaves. Rather, it says, and there's New Testament, Old Testament places alike, where it says, if you have slaves, this is how you are to deal with them.
Okay. Wouldn't it be more moral, however, to say, don't keep slaves? If it's a perfect book, why is there misinterpretation of it worldwide? This is a question, this is one of the reasons I'm an atheist. And this is how I came to these conclusions, because those questions are extremely difficult. And you have to make a concession. You have to say, well, they're talking about indentured servitude or whatever. But if the book was perfect, it would simply say, don't keep slaves, don't stone people. Yeah, the golden rule.
No, maybe back to that morality situation. Well, I'll be completely honest. I'm pretty new to Christianity myself. I grew up in a home that didn't truly believe in going to church and reading the Bible, and I didn't have a religious revelation until my freshman year of college. And I'm still pretty new to Jesus and his teachings and whatever teachings there are else in the Bible, but I have felt God's power, and I know the testimony of my other friends, and I have accepted that God exists. But back to the morality question, I mean, maybe it can just be seen from a viewpoint as if you do have slaves, treat them well. I mean, that's a good morality standpoint there. I mean, even though, see, that's the thing is, I mean, even if the Bible doesn't specifically say don't have slaves, treat them well. I'm not sure. You said something else I want to make a comment on, but
it's a dangerous position to put yourself in. And I'd like you to think about that comment you just made with, if you have slaves, here's how you treat them. Well, a moral person, in my view, would not have slaves. And I think a moral person, in your view, would not have slaves. So we both agree on this.
They wouldn't.
Perhaps?
Yeah, but, I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to the free will that God gives each and every person. I mean,
how do we know that God gave us free will? I mean, I was born, I don't believe in a God, I have free will. There are people who believe in other gods, and they also have free will. So it's not specific to one God.
Well, see, that's the thing, is I in my theistic beliefs, I truly don't label one specific religion with a correct God. I mean, for you to call me a Christian might be a little inaccurate, I would say.
Okay, well, how do you define yourself? What label would you prefer?
I just believe in God. That's when I was growing up, I had a real hard time accepting church and religion because of, like you said back with the comment about the Bible Belt, a lot of the teachings that people seem to pass on to their newer generations, they get misconstrued, or generations, they just set the bad examples anyway by going against the teachings. And I had a hard time accepting a church that was so flawed and a religion that was so flawed that I couldn't follow an organized religion or anything like that because of all the contradiction and everything. But
can I ask Pastor Josh, what advice would you give in this situation?
Yeah, I feel like the idea of a disconnect between what people believe and what people do, I mean, that's just across the board. And I think especially from a Christian perspective, you're not going to find one Christian who is going to sit there and say, I perfectly live the life that I should live. I treat everyone the way that I should treat people. So even though Christianity is going to say, live like Jesus, or this is how we should live, we're going to see a disconnect between how we should live and how we actually live, because what the Bible teaches is that we all have I would call it like a depraved nature. We all have this rebellious spirit. We're selfish people. We're proud people. We're not humble people. But through Christianity and through this life of Jesus, slowly over time, hopefully these are things that are growing in us. So like, I'm a father. I don't always treat my kids the way that I should, but hopefully by God's grace and his working in my life, he's maturing me to treat them the way that I should. And so I could say this is how I should father my kids, but I'm not going to be perfect in that. So I feel like the idea of hypocrisy, because I feel like I've heard that from a lot of different friends that I have, the idea that, well, Christianity says this, but people don't match up to that. I mean, you could say that about anything, really. I mean, because our ideals in this world and what we would actually deem to be true, we don't always act in that way. And I think that really points back to just our natures to want to be selfish, to want to do things that are going to harm or injure other people. But I don't think that discredits truth, unless people are saying truth is something that I can just conjure up. It's whatever I want it to be. It's not something that's outside of me. It's not something that is absolute. Because if it's something I can create, then certainly things are getting really fuzzy there. But if it's something that's absolute, there's a standard outside of myself that I'm not always going to be able to hold true to, because I'm still a person. I still have this fallen nature. I still am a selfish person, like I'm saying. So,
Ryan, was there anything more you wanted to add?
Well, yeah, I wanted to reiterate that that was a previous belief, the whole not being able to accept the church, and through what I feel that Jesus came to speak to me, he helped me accept the church. And although I still don't completely call myself a Christian, I do accept Jesus Christ as my Savior and realize that although, because I'm as flawed as everybody else and I won't be able to match up to the perfect life that Jesus lived, but
okay, well, Ryan, may I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How did Jesus speak to you?
just through various ways. Those signs and coincidences that just lined up too perfectly with things I was going on with in my life. And I mean, it's hard to put it into words how Jesus spoke to me, because it's kind of an individual experience.
And that's it. Now, I have a previous guest on this show, Matt Dillahunty, was a Christian for a good number of years. He's since become an atheist, and he runs a TV show called The Atheist Experience. Very sharp, switched-on guy. He said something to me when he came on this show that sort of struck a chord. He said, I have no reason to doubt what you experienced, but I have no way of understanding that. So everybody has a different experience, because Jesus doesn't call us on the telephone. It's not something we can measure. So the signs that you describe were things like, you probably have a better example than I do, but I would suggest at that time you were open to suggestion. And this is the confirmation bias thing I was talking about. If you ask for something fortunate to happen on a given day, and then something completely out of the blue fortunate does happen, then you perhaps incorrectly attribute that to a prayer, for example. And that's what builds a belief. That's what builds faith.
Well, too, if it's coincidence after coincidence, I feel like that's something hard to ignore.
I don't disagree, but you have to take each one of them on its own merits.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, as I say, it's not about me yelling at you. Did you have any other questions? Who's got a question?
Well, I mean, I'm still kind of going back to a little bit off of my original question, but the idea that you said, if there was a God, you would love to know God. But I think one of the things that I find difficult, I guess, in like an atheistic viewpoint is, and I'm assuming here, but someone like yourself, and just through the things you've been saying, even, you very much pride yourself in the idea of not using faith, but using logic, reason, and all those things solely. And I'm definitely not sitting here saying don't use logic, reason, and those things. But if there is a God and you would want to know God, then wouldn't it be very natural and actually, right that you wouldn't understand everything about the way the world works? Because if there is a God and he really made everything, and he made us and this world and how it all works and all these different things, then he's obviously way smarter than I am. And so I can't really think that I would completely understand every single thing about this life. If I did, then that would make me God, so to speak. Thinking about if there's a God and you would want to know him, then doesn't it make sense that you aren't able to logically and reasonably understand everything about life?
I think the question you're kind of angling towards here is, how would I know a God if I saw one?
I'm more asking just the question that an atheist very much prides himself on. If it's not logical, if it's not reasonable in my world, then it can't possibly be true. Like so I'm saying, like, wouldn't there naturally be things that you would have to, at the end of the day, say, yeah, we can't really ultimately know that because I am not God?
Exactly. Now, one of the things, probably the biggest thing I pride myself on, is saying, I don't know. Now,
right.
I interviewed some children on a previous episode. They were only sort of 7 or 8, and I asked them about questions like this. What's a soul? Where is it? How can we find it? What happens after we die? And to their credit, they answered with, I don't know. And that's something I hope I never lose.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I see something that to me would appear to be a miracle, and all of a sudden somebody's grown a leg back, would I attribute that to a God, or would I say, I don't know? So things occur all the time that we don't understand. Things occurred 15 billion years ago that we don't understand. No, not completely. With the theist argument, they say, okay, well, we don't understand how it came into existence. We have a book here that gives us something that we want to believe, so that's what we're going to take. Whereas the physicist says, I don't understand. I don't know. I can't know. But here's the best explanation we have for this to date. And that changes, and it's updated constantly.
Yeah, so I'm saying, but in the fact then that you don't know everything, or that you're saying I don't know, wouldn't that actually contribute to the reality that there might actually be a God?
Well, look, there may well be a God.
Right, but you actually believe there isn't a God.
No. Okay, let's define atheism.
Okay, yeah.
The atheist view, and this is my view as well, because there's different types of atheism, because we're a bunch of sects, is that I have no good reason to believe there is a God or gods, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of different religions making assertions, and I'm yet to see something convincing from any one of them. Then you've got your militant, or your right-wing atheists on the Dawkins scale, so of a 1 to 7, a 7 would be, okay, there categorically is no God. But in order to make that assertion, you have to have evidence for it. Now, we don't have evidence that there is no God. in the same way we don't have evidence that there's a unicorn orbiting Jupiter. So I can't take that standpoint rationally. What I can do is say that I'm yet to see evidence for this, and that's my position. That's all it is.
Right. So I guess, yeah, just as you consider the world, the universe, galaxies, all that, like, I guess from your viewpoint, I guess how did everything get here?
Again, I don't know, and I'm not an authority on the topic.
Right. You have a view on it, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and what I would do in this instance is defer to an expert such as Lawrence Krauss, who is a physicist.
Right.
And these are, he's a guy who spent his life, his professional life at least, studying the universe. Do we know the cause of the Big Bang? Do we know what happened before the Big Bang? No, we don't. But things happen by chance all the time. So we have mutations that occur, and through chance we have different species evolving. If the universe popped into existence just for us, we are on a very, very, very tiny planet in a remote corner of the solar system. And if all of this was for us, we're very self-centered to believe that. And that's my view on it.
Right.
Was that a clear answer?
Yeah, no, I guess. I mean, because there's not a specific answer I'm looking for. I'm more genuinely curious. Because I guess, like, for someone like me, if I'm like, well, I don't know if there's a God, I don't have reason to believe in a God. Well, I just consider about looking at this universe, and like I've seen, a couple babies born into this world, and how all this comes together and just somehow magically works. And it actually is easier, I think, to believe that there has to be a God versus, well, something just like by chance.
You nailed it.
Then at some point you're like, well, how were those things created that actually gave birth to chance? You know what I mean? Or all the different stuff related to, like, when you get back to not believing in a God but trying to explain the existence of all physical reality, I feel like that almost seems to take more faith to me than to accept the reality that, like, there must be a God, at least a creator, so to speak. And so I guess when you're saying I don't have evidence to believe in a God, I guess I was just curious as to, from your view, then how you would view that. Because for me, I feel like that enough. I believe there has to at least be a God. That proves that there is a God.
I feel warm and fuzzy when I see a baby as well for the first time. My sister is pregnant. She's due in 3 weeks with her first child, so I'm about to become an uncle.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt I'm going to be overwhelmed with all sorts of hormones and pheromones and things that we don't understand that will make me think, wow, isn't this just wonderful?
Yeah.
Now, because I have a little bit of a science interest in my background, I don't see anything there that I can't attribute to reality. So it took no mystical intervention in order for that to take place. So I can look at that in wonder and awe and experience a good feeling, but I can experience it for what it is, not for what it might be.
Yeah, I'm more just seeking to try to understand what you were saying about I need proof to believe there's a God, and so I feel like when I even look at trees in the universe, and from my view, obviously, it points to the fact that there must at least be a God. And so I guess for me, the question then goes to, if there is a God, can he be known? And so when I look at the world and I look at history and I consider the fact that there was a man that was told, named Jesus, who came to this earth, and people witnessed his life and wrote about him and all these various things, that to me, even logically and firmly, that makes more sense, especially when I'm looking at what's good about life and how the life of Jesus actually produces those sort of things.
Bob, I have a question.
Lay it on me.
I'm just thinking, because we're logical beings.
Yeah.
And we create something, we build something, we take pride in that, right? And one thing I'm thinking about is, when I think about my faith, when I think about God and being created, when it comes to my existence and how I got here, I take a lot of comfort and a lot of rest in the thought that a creator, a logical creator, takes pride in his creation of me and you and Pastor Josh and Ryan. He takes pride in all of his creation. Not only that, but that my creator wants to know me and I get to have a relationship with him. I find a lot more comfort in that and a lot more peace in that than wondering how in the world we got here, or relying on science that has no loving creation or intricate design to me. It's just by chance. I wonder, where do you find any peace or joy or comfort aside from that sort of relationship?
Where do I find peace and love and joy? Probably the biggest thing I enjoy in life is learning. And when there's a question that I have that I didn't have an answer for previously, when that gets answered, I get a kick out of that. I've learned something. I've improved. When I've done something good for somebody else, I feel a sense of happiness. When I look at my girlfriend, I'm all loved up. That makes me happy. There was one point I wanted to touch upon in your question there. You said that you feel comforted by knowing that God loves all of his creations. When I look at the world as objectively as I possibly can and take the assumption that God created everybody on this earth, he created some people in a position of comfort, such as us in the Western world, where we have developed nations, high standards of living, good health care and so forth. And in exactly the same time scale, so right now, there are people living in poverty. So if there is a God, he has a bias. That gives me cause for unease.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. The reason I say that is this past summer, I spent 2 months of my time in Southeast Asia, working with a lot of people that had near nothing. They were happy to get a meal or two a day. Mm-hmm. The Christians that I encountered in that culture and that I got to work with and talk to, they had what seemed to be a comfort and peace that even exceeded at times what I have, despite their circumstance. And God's love and comfort is not dependent on the material things I have or the quality of life that I have, but rather the relationship that he's given to me. And he offers that to those people as well. And when they've experienced it, regardless of the fact that they're living in a one-room apartment on the 10th floor of some apartment complex, sleeping on bamboo leaves and eating a bowl of rice a day, they still had that same comfort. And they were able to teach me things, and I was able to grow in my joy and my peace because of that. I think that God's love, peace that he offers us is not necessarily based on what he's given us. A lot of people, I guess in America, we've seen the guy with the Cadillac that says blessed on the front of it. And I don't think that that's exactly what God's idea of blessed is.
But that's his idea of blessed.
That's the guy in the Cadillac's idea of blessed, because he has a nice car. But I think what Scripture teaches us is that the idea of blessed is the fact that Jesus has offered his life as a ransom for ours, and an opportunity to buy a relationship for us back with God that we lost in Adam. And I think that ultimately is where my comfort and my peace comes from. Granted, I have plenty of peace and joy from dealing with my family, and I have happiness from my friends and the relationships that I've formed, but they don't begin to compare to what God has done for me and the relationship I have with him. I guess that's kind of a very open-ended response.
It's a good one.
No, I'll chime in here real quick. This is kind of back to what I was trying to make my point across on Twitter with.
Sorry, this is Ryan?
Yeah, sorry, this is Ryan. Yeah, this was that point I was trying to make on Twitter when I was saying with God we find spiritual wealth, we don't find a material wealth. It seems like a lot of these developed countries now, the U.S. and Australia, obviously, they're a lot better off than other places in Africa and Southeast Asia. And, some people can find comfort in materialistic objects, but that's man-created civilization, not God. God put us on this earth, and man built walls and brought everybody together, and that's not a God thing. It's to have material items and civilization and developed economies. It's, in my opinion, it's living for God and making our lives about God and not about what we can gain on this earth.
Well, even the irony that, if God made everything, you're looking at the world and how it seems to be unfair, how at least the Christian story is that, it's this Christmas time. God comes to a very poor family in an impoverished area. He's born in a stable, he doesn't grow up with all these riches and wealth, but yet his message always is exactly what everyone else has been saying here, that I'm rich because I get God and I get to have that relationship with God, and that's not based upon my physical circumstances. And I think it was Bob, that was saying that, I've seen that too firsthand. You go into other third world places, love on people, and you leave and you feel like they taught you so much because they don't have nearly as much as you, yet they are so happy because they realize that they really essentially have all that they need because, they need more physical benefits for sure, but I'm saying in their heart of hearts, realizing that they have God, they have ultimately what they need for life. And if all there is this life, if it is finite, like you're saying, then definitely, it looks very unfair. But I find it ironic that God would come to this earth the Son of God, Jesus, and not come and be born in some palace and sit on some throne and ask people just to continue to give him money for greater riches and things like that. But yet he would serve people, and he wouldn't have a place to lay his head like the gospel and all these other things. So it was more a question for you, but because I know you've said you find a lot of joy in learning or in realizing that you're leaving, the generations behind you, hopefully the world a better place, so to speak. But would you be someone who, in some level, would say life is ultimately meaningless? If you get to the place where we're all going to die someday, we all die, you say, I don't go to heaven or hell, I just go into the ground and worms eat me. Would you have to ultimately then look at life and say life is meaningless?
People attribute meaning very differently. So on that point, with the free will thing, you're free to set your own goals in life. I set my goals not to appease somebody in the hope that I won't go to hell or that I might be blessed enough to go to heaven. I do good things on the basis of they're good and they assist others. In the life, the only life that we can be assured of having. I too have been, we've got a lot in common here. I went to Vietnam. I lived in Vietnam in an impoverished area. I taught French and English at a university there for a year. Yeah, there's plenty of religion going on there. There's several different types. And we all got along. And my kick out of it was knowing that I'd made a difference. And it helped those people improve their quality of living, perhaps not immediately, but over time, by being able to open up trade and so forth, right? By improving their education. Education, in my view, is the key to improving quality of life throughout the globe. So for that reason, I ask people to donate to support this show because it costs me money and time and so forth to produce. And 10% of everything I earn, so this is my tithing, I give it to a company called Kiva. They give that money out as loans to developing people. And I target women for education because that is what I view as improving the quality of life and will have the most impact. Yeah. I'm sorry, I hope I didn't stray too far from your question.
No, I guess because I understand what you're saying and I would agree with you. I guess it's more if the world ceased to exist someday and there were no more people because of some tragedy or whatever have you, then in essence you're not passing on this better quality of life anymore. Ultimately, in a sense, nothing really mattered because it's all over.
That may well be the case, but right. I have no reason to believe that the world is about to experience an apocalypse.
No, but I'm just saying, if that were to happen, then nothing really mattered because it's just all over. It only matters if, in essence, if it always continues to be passed on, and then I guess, in a sense, you might be improving everyone's reality. Their life, their quality of life, like you're saying. I was just saying, if I look at it objectively, and the world were to cease to exist, so to speak, if you were to believe, meteors hit the Earth and wiped everything out, and dinosaurs are gone and things like that, so to speak, at some level, if that were to happen, and no more life existed, then me and what I do in this life wouldn't really matter because it would just be gone.
Okay, but that's at a point. That's at a point in the future. And it's a theoretical, hypothetical point in the future that may or may not occur. So while it may or may not be meaningless at that point, that doesn't stop me from doing good things now, and I don't think it stops you either.
Oh no, it shouldn't. Shouldn't.
This is Ron again. I guess I have a question. Back to you trying to leave the world as a better place when you leave it. If you don't see any sort of view of an afterlife or reward and salvation for the good deeds you do, what really is the point then of you doing all these works? Essentially, there are definitely people that have come before you, and there'll be people that come after you with the exact same idea of leaving the world with a better place, but with a belief there's nowhere else to go. What's the point? What's the motivation? Because it'll just be this constant reciprocation of people trying to do good for something that ultimately just doesn't matter in the end.
Okay, I don't have kids yet, but I can imagine what having kids might be like. So that's my genetic afterlife, and that's something that I can have an impact on. I suppose that's as simple as I can make it. It's the only sort of residual trace I'll leave on the planet is my genes, and for others to benefit and experience happiness and joy as a result of that. I understand it's a really tricky concept for a believer to wrap their head around, to understand that an atheist doesn't believe that they're going any particular place when they die, because it's what believers have been taught. You know, when you're a good person, yes, you might make mistakes, but you've got to ask for forgiveness, and then you can move on. For me, you know, we're not that different. It's just the bit at the very end where you move on. We're all going to stay here in some regard or another, and I don't feel that I have to impress somebody who may or may not exist in order to live a good life. If there is a God, and there could be, but it's probably not the God that everybody understands or believes in on the earth. And the reason I say that is you can ask 10 Christians what is God and you'll get 10 different answers. If there is a God, I shouldn't have had to have begged my entire life for his acceptance. I think that a good God would look at me and go, okay, well, he asked the questions, he did good things, he tried to leave the place in a better condition than he found it. That's all right by me. That'd be a good God, in my view.
How do you judge that, though? I mean, what if you did more bad than good? Or, I mean, how do you know the measurement of that?
Well, I use my experiences. I use the sum total of my knowledge today. In the same way that you would, you can see that something is bad. Killing another person is a bad thing. Burning a house down is a bad thing. This is how I form my view of reality. I don't see that there's anything more complicated than that. Don't hurt other people.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
It's really simple. And the way I phrased it is really quite simple. But I understand it's a very complex thing for a believer to understand. And I admire you guys for taking the time to try and understand it. Or at least understand my view a bit better. I think, you know, good for you.
Yeah, no, I think it's great to be able to have different views, people talk about it.
Bob, I want to leave one last comment. You made the comment about having to live to try and, you know, beg God or try and impress God. In my view, I don't believe that the God we see in the Bible at all requires us to beg or try and pull him to our side and look favorably on us. But I believe that Christ has already done that for us. It's just a matter of trust and belief in him, a surrenderance of our life to him. In that, I think that that's actually what separates Christianity from the rest of the world religions, is the fact that it's not about what I do, but what Christ did. It's not about what I can accomplish, but what's already been accomplished on the cross. It's nothing I do to try and earn God's favor, but it's the fact that God has already placed his favor on me because of Jesus. The strife that comes in most world religions is trying to earn God's favor. The breath of fresh air that comes from Christianity is the fact that we don't have to earn it. God sent his son to die to give it to us. And that's, in essence, in my theism, in my pursuit of God, why Christianity rises above everything else is because God loved me enough to do the work for me, so I didn't have to worry whether or not I did good enough on this earth. And that's just the final thought I want to leave it with.
I've got one tiny response.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
I find it extremely challenging to understand how God would send himself to earth to be tortured and punished, to forgive us for something that he didn't necessarily have to put in there in the first place. I find that concept of creating original sin to be the hook that faiths use. You know, you're born broken and you have to get circumcised. You have to come and get water poured on your head. You have to eat symbolic crackers and drink wine, which is symbolically blood, which is quite odd when you look at it from the outside in. It's a concept that, in my opinion, it's my humble opinion, that is unnecessary. God didn't need to do that if there is a God.
In my opinion, again, my opinion, but if God hadn't have done that, if he had not have placed an opportunity for us to rebel, he would have had a lot of robots serving him originally. We would have been created only, to serve him with no opportunity to serve ourselves.
It sounds a lot like heaven.
Well, I would argue that because the people who would reach heaven in a relationship with God would have chosen on earth to pursue that, to have that relationship established and to have pursued God here. The idea is if we can pursue God in the midst of sin, then with the absence of sin, pursuit of God is it's not easier to attain, but it's also more freeing, and it is the peace that we've been striving for on this earth. To pursue God and know God is then perfected in heaven, to where it's not us as robots, but it's the perfection of our pursuit on earth.
All right. Well, thank you. All right, guys, we'll do a quick whip around. Is there anything that you would like to, any shout-outs you'd like to make, any work that you're doing that you'd like to promote, such as a blog or a project you're working on or a charity that you'd like to give a shout-out to, Josh?
Sure. Right now, we're in the midst of trying to open up a safe house for human trafficking, women trafficked out of Portland, Oregon, to receive rehabilitation and hopefully get back on their feet and have a better life and not have to live in that lifestyle. It's called House of Engedi, and so we're in the stages of trying to raise funds in order to see that house become a reality. So if people this Christmas season are looking to support something that's going to contribute to women and receiving rehabilitation for a life they're oppressed in, it's called House of Engedi, and we could really use the support for that.
Okay, where can we find the link?
It's just called houseofengedi.org.
How do we spell Engedi?
Engedi, like a oasis, Engedi.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much. Bob, what have you got?
I think I'd just like to thank you for letting me come on, Adam. And also, I love my school, Anderson University in South Carolina. It's awesome. It's a Christian environment, so it's an awesome place. I definitely encourage anybody, maybe from the Australian side, looking to come over here. It's a great school. Maybe to play soccer or something like that. I know one of my friends here is from Australia, and his name's James Somerville.
Oh, I know him.
You know him?
No, I made that up.
Oh. So no, he's over here from Australia, so I know he loves it here, and it's just a great place.
Cool. And Ryan?
On the 21st of December, my band is playing a benefit show at the Rock Lake Community Center in South Charleston, West Virginia. Last year we did it. It's a Toys for Tots benefit show. Admission's $8, or you just bring a brand new toy. Last year we were able to raise $800 and a lot of clothes and toys to give to families who otherwise wouldn't be able to enjoy Christmas. We have more information posted on our Facebook to anyone who wants to go check it out.
Excellent. Right, guys. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts and taking the time to listen to mine. No doubt I'll speak to you on Twitter.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Pleasure.
Right, sorry, I'm choking, and usually I have such a really good gag reflex. Don't put that in the podcast.
You know it'll make it.
Yeah, it's definitely making it.
Okay.
G'day, Living Waters. This is Ray.
Ray, this is Ralene. Ray, take me back, please, Ray.
Ralene? I told you never to call this number again.
Ray, I need to come back to you, but John won't let me go. He's holding me hostage.
What have you done to your accent? Has he installed a new accent in you?
I forgot about the accent. I don't know what accent that was.
Is this line being tipped? I can hear somebody else on it. Is that you, NRA? Or NSA? Those two always confuse me. Okay, Ralene, time to use your words. Ralene, are you still there?
Yeah, Ray. Yeah, Ray, I'm here.
Why are you calling me?
Ray, help me. John's keeping me hostage, Ray.
What? But you ran back to him.
But Ray, I can't live without you. I need you, Ray.
This isn't my problem. Explain what's happened.
Joel's hooked me up to the solar panels. He's harnessing the bright, shiny light from my luminescent asshole to keep his teeth even shinier.
How is that even possible?
Well, I don't know. Science, Ray. You don't know about science. You evolution-denying buffoon.
No, I know all about the science. Science is pretty straightforward.
Please come and get me.
So what you're suggesting is that you want your job back?
Yes, Ray. I can't live without you, Ray.
Look, just shush for a second. And if you can drag yourself away from that solar panel and renewing Joel's energy, you have a mission, should you choose to accept it. I've spent 17 weeks now on the phone to Twitter, and I've been passed from pillar to post. I don't even understand what sort of languages they're talking. It's ridiculous.
Well, have you not got your Twitter handle back yet, Ray?
Still not.
I wish to accept it. I'll get it back for you, Ray. If I get your Twitter handle back, Ray, will you take me back?
I think we can come to some agreement.
Meanwhile, back at the Joel Osteen Renewable Energy Harvesting Center.
Right. I'm just going to disconnect myself from the solar panels. I'm just going to pull this thing out of my asshole and... I'll be on my way. I've got to phone Twitter support to get that handle, and then I'll be back into Ray's fold. Oh no, but I've got no money. How will I find money to use the payphone? I know. I'll just take Joel's diamond cock ring. That's got to earn me a few quid. I'm free. I'm on my way to see Ray. I need to find Twitter support so I can give this handle back to get it back to Ray. Oh look! What a surprise! This phone takes payments in form of cock rings.
Good morning. This is Twitter support in Johannesburg. How can I help you this morning?
Hi,
Hello?
my name's Ralene. Hello?
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 This is Twitter support. It's Twitter support in Johannesburg. We only support very few areas.
I'm calling from
Hold
America.
on. I've had enough. I'm going to transfer you to our department in India. Hold for a second. Good morning. This is...
This is Deepak?
Hello, this is Twitter support.
Good morning. This is Twitter support.
Cockring consciousness. I must inform you that this cockring is being monitored for training and quality purposes. How can I help you today?
What the fuck is that? I can't make out which one of the two it is.
Let me put you through to my supervisor. Hang on.
Two minds can be one consciousness. We are universe.
Between the two of us, how can we solve your problem today?
Well, my name's Ralene. I am the ex-PA of the very famous Ray Comfort. I'm sure you've heard of him. I need to get his Twitter handle back. It's been stolen.
Where did he lose it? Was it in the infinite consciousness of the universe?
No, some jumped-up atheist took it. I need to get it back to Ray. If I get this Twitter handle back, Ray will have me back.
I'll just pop you through to the call center in Ireland. Have a conscious day.
Don't forget, one mind, two consciousness, three testicles. Hello, top of the morning to you. This is Seamus in Twitter support in Dublin. How's the crack?
I'm sorry, Seamus. I don't understand you. All I've heard was potato, and leprechauns, and I take it up the arse.
That's what I said.
I need to get my Twitter handle back. I've been passed around from pillar to post. My name is Ralene. I'm Ray Comfort's assistant. I need to get my Twitter handle back so that Ray will take me back. Can you help me or not?
Well, have you spoken to Deepak in India?
Yes, and he's just a...
Because Deepak usually deals with all of these things.
No one can help me. I need to get my Twitter handle back so I can give it back to Ray.
How is the Twitter handle spelt?
Ray Comfort. Are you stupid?
So it's just Ray Comfort.
Yes.
Is that comfort with a U?
No, you illiterate potato picker. It's Comfort with an O.
And that's two O's.
Yes, no, one O.
So just the one O, no U.
You're starting to sound like Deepak again. Like an Irish Deepak.
Deepak is present in all countries.
Wherever you find a photon, you'll find a little bit of Deepak.
Hello? Twitter support? Hello?
Hello, this is Ralene. Ray Comfort.
Lyrene?
Yes, Ralene. Whatever you want to call me.
Lyrene! How are you, Lyrene?
Can you help me get my Twitter handle back?
Of course I can.
Well, then do it.
What's your Twitter handle called?
It's at RayComfort. Ray Comfort.
Okay, let me read it back. L-A-R-I C-L-M-O Latte. Collect?
No, it's not collect. I've paid for this call with a cock ring. It's not a collect. Yes, correct.
So reinstated Twitter handle L-A-R-I-C-O-M-R-A-T.
Yes.
Collect?
Yes, correct.
Okay, you just have to go through confirmation with Deepak in India. Hold for a second. This is Deepak. This is the confirmation department. Hello?
Yes, hello.
We need to confirm Twitter handle reinstatement for L-A-R-I-C-O-M-R-A-T.
Like comfort. Let me just check the fax machine. I don't have a fax machine.
It's okay. I have a fax machine. When you think about the universe, you have to think For yourself, everybody is a fax machine.
Can you send us a thought fax there from China?
Okay, I'll send cosmic fax.
I am receiving your cosmic fax. I have received your cosmic fax. We will reinstate...
Did you like the picture of my cat?
Is that supper?
Let me just take this to my manager, which is me. I have had my manager sign it off. We are good to go to reinstate the right comfort. Would you like to put the customer on the line?
Hold for 1 second. Hello, Ralene.
Hello, have you had any luck?
We have a Twitter handle. We transfer you to India.
Hello?
Hello?
This is Deepak.
Deepak! It's Ralene! Have you got my Twitter handle?
Let me just confirm the spelling before I give it back to you. L-A-R... C-R-M-F-A-R-T.
Ah, that will do. Thanks, Deepak!
Be conscious.
Always!
G'day, Ralene.
Hi, Ray, it's me, Ralene. Have you missed me?
Oh, no, I've missed my Twitter handle more, but coming out of the rain. Your footsteps sound damp. All right, talk me through it.
You have no idea what I've been through to get this Twitter handle back for you.
I'm sorry, I'll have to transfer you through to another department in Bolivia.
Fuck off, Bolivia. I can't do Bolivia. I don't even know how Bolivian people speak.
Spanish.
Just transferring you through now. Transfer complete.
I can't do a Spanish accent.
Pick it up in Spanish, do it.
I can't do it. I don't know what Spanish people speak like.
Hola.
Hola!
Hola, good morning. How can I help you?
This call has been transferred internally. Clearly there is no one picking up in Bolivia.
Island?
Joel is hooking me up to the soul of... I'm sorry.